That's interesting. So the gold, the silver is always with the gold. With lead zinc, silver with lead zinc. We do have. Not in a BMS, carcinogenic massive sulfide, or veins? In veins. Ooh, this is very interesting. This is very interesting. I should stop my talk and then I should peg all this ground. It's very, very interesting then. I didn't know this. So, you see, that's very good. Well, we'll see what happens then. See if you can recognise any similarities. This is great. So the granites are low, they're reduced. We won't worry about this. They contain titanite and ilmenite, not magnetite. They have a very low magnetic susceptibility, so as I say, they've got flat aeromagnetic signatures. I'll show you some of the aeromagnetic signatures of these later. They've got a low iron 3 to iron 2 ratio. The fluids have got methane in them, if any fluid inclusions have ever been done on any of these things, and so on. The tectonic setting is very specific. They're right in the back arc, near the continental margin. They're post-deformation to post-collision, so they're not deformed, they're undeformed generally. And I'll look at this in a minute, we won't worry too much about it. I'll just make it very simplistic, so we won't worry about exactly where these deposits are for the moment, or the details, because it's too much detail. We'll look at a cartoon. I always like simple cartoons. So we've got a subduction zone here, and we've got an old continent out here. So this is why I was interested in these continental masses. Are the bits of old continent around? So here's a continent out here. Here's a subduction zone, and we get mantle type granites near the subduction zone. I-type, this is derived from igneous rocks here, derived from sedimentary rocks here, because when we're near the craton we get a lot of sedimentary rocks and they melt to produce this type here, and then we get sort of subalkaline type granites out on the continental margin. And if we look there, we get our oxidised magnets with copper gold there, and we get our reduced magnets with tungsten and tin in there. Now if we get something like this, the slab shallows off, we get a sudden influx of a stenospheric heat down here, and we actually melt some of the material near the craton margin. So this material near the craton margin is very metasomatized. It's got lots of gold and copper and potassium and things in it, just down in here. And all of a sudden, we produce gold into the system. And at the same time, the S-type granite gets mixed up with I-type granite, which is coming from deep down here. So we go back, we get, that's a normal situation. So if we look all around the world, the outer arcs, so if we looked in the Andes, all the outer arcs are copper gold. As we come in towards the Brazilian continent, the Amazon craton or one of the other cratons, we start to get tin and tungsten in Peru and Bolivia near the Brazilian border, for example. And then we'll get this happening, shallowing. All of a sudden gold comes in, and the reason it does, I'll show in a minute, is because we suddenly get melting. Instead of melting happening just here, we get melting happening right down in here. Deep melting, producing a different type of granite and producing these gold systems. So I'll explain that in a minute. It's quite intriguing. So if we look at the belt in Alaska that these things are most prominent from, we don't need to worry, but it's a typical belt. See, the oldest rocks are here. These are intrusions. They get younger, they get younger, they get younger. They get very young out here. So they're getting young. The craton, the old American craton is sitting under here, somewhere like that. So we're right up against the Precambrian lithosphere there. And these were known for these tungsten, molybdenum, tin belts. The copper was out in here. So this is what were mined, big tungsten skarns out here. And then, more recently, people have realised there are these gold gold belts associated with these. So they're sitting right, the old craton margin is down here somewhere, not quite sure exactly where it is, because it's all covered with sedimentary rock, but we're sitting near the old Precambrian craton in sedimentary rocks with these types of granite, these young granites in it, like that. So, 5-minute break.